Hello, everybody. Welcome to our AuthorTube panel. Thanks so much for coming. I'm going to give you a little rundown of who my guests are, but just so you know you're in the right place, authors sliced and diced. And that's just my stupid pun title because we're going to be talking about how we slice ourselves up and make ourselves palatable to our lovely reader audiences. So today we're going to talk about social media strategy and what we share and don't share, how we brand and cope with all that stuff going on. I'd like to introduce anyone who doesn't know to my guests here, going backwards. We have Sarah DeVello. She is a friend from Mighty Blaze. She has a Facebook group that is focused on mysteries and thrillers. So I know someone will be very interested to ask about mysteries and thrillers. Yes, Marilyn as well. And we're all published authors here, so we'll all be asking each other questions about our strategies. Let's see, backwards, we're going to Marilyn. Marilyn Maya Mendoza is another YouTube friend. She writes a memoir. She's over in Hawaii. She is known for her lovely outlandish intros, her love for mysteries, and her mental health Mondays. Even if they didn't catch on, we love them anyway. And then we have Sandy below me, Sandy Golston at BookTube TV. Yes, he is working on thrillers. That's his chosen genre, as well as some horror, which, you know, not my bag, but a lot of people like that. So I'll, give him its due. And he's querying right now, making stuff happen. And so we're very excited to get the experiences of all these different authors to the table for you guys to think about. Okay, we've already got comments. I'll just start popping them up. Hi, Barrett.
Hi, Barrett.
Time. Hello, Pay. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Anna is here as well. Hello. Hi. Yeah, I will start popping up channels in the chat as soon as other people start talking so that you can all check them out if you don't know them already. So in order to get me to do that, I'm gonna pose a question and back away slowly. So, first I thought I would just ask people, when did you start becoming conscious of marketing, and when did you start writing, and did they happen at the same time, or did one come before the other, and how did that roll out for you? So Sarah, could you start us off?
Yes. First of all, hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. So here's the 30-second summary. I started off in PR and marketing, actually. So I came out of college. I worked my way through college. I came out. I had those student loans to repay. Mama needed a job fast. And I had actually worked my way through college at the college's PR and marketing office. So I had the experience to go right into that career. So I got a job doing PR and marketing in the corporate world. I did that for 14 years. And then I came out, and you can take the girl out of the marketing and PR world, but you can't fully take the PR and marketing out of the girl. So I still am in that mindset. And that is what informs my PR and marketing strategy as an author, which I have since segued to. So I am a yoga teacher by day, mystery writer by night. I am working on book number 2 right now. She's a beast, but we're tightening up. And that is how I came to both writing and marketing that writing.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. And as she said, Mystery Thriller Mavens is her Facebook group. I've popped the link in the chat. It's an amazing weekly series on Mondays where she interviews amazing authors. Like, seriously, I just pointed out the Riley Sager interview because Sandy is a huge fan. And so I was like, you need to be there. Yeah. So yeah, very cool. Marilyn, why don't you go ahead next?
Well, I've always been a writer, but not a published one. I started with poetry. I've done spoken word. I've done slam poetry.
Nice.
That's how I started. And then, yeah. And then I started a nonfiction blog. I started the blog when I got my book published. So, yeah, so I still have the blog, but I'm not really that active on it. But it's kind of taking off a little bit since I've been doing BookTube. So
nice.
With marketing, I didn't know anything really, but I'm a good researcher. So when my book came out, I just did everything that I can think of to get traction for the book. My publisher was in the UK, it was a small press. So I just went to the UK. My son works for an airline, And I met people there, and they said that they would help me. And I was just like talking in different places. I went with my daughter, and it was really funny because I kept on saying at the end of the talk, I would say, get the money so we can eat tomorrow.
Oh.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. But I realized that the small press did not edit my book well. First of all, they didn't get, because I come from Brooklyn, New York, and from the project, so they really didn't get the American slang, you know, and they didn't get anything. So a lot of people said they liked the book, but it wasn't edited well, you know. So I decided to do another book. So I took it out of print. It's still available on ebook, but I took it out of print, and I'm working on my second book right now, a memoir. So I write nonfiction basically. And I have a better idea about what I'm going to do with marketing the second time around.
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds like you're going to be doing a 180 from the previous approach, but that's how we learn, is experimenting and changing it up, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Very cool. All right, Sandy, you're on mute. There we go.
Yep. I remember sometimes, you know, in this in the Zoom culture and whatnot, sometimes you forget to take yourself off of mute, and you end up looking foolish, and then everybody's screaming. And everybody's screaming unmute at you, and you're like, yeah, I don't know, one of these buttons. So I started writing really more. I used to call it exercise for the imagination. So that was kind of what I got into in terms of writing. You know, I had a lot of things that were tumbling around in my head, and you know, it just it felt good. I've got in the room next to me, you guys can't see it, but there's stacks of composition books from when I used to write when I was in high school. And so there's just tons of that. And also, you know, when I got computer and you would print, and it had the little pieces you had to pull off of there with the holes in it, because that was the way printers had to work back in the day. I just aged myself tremendously, so I probably lost you some audience right there. But, you know, so I got into doing that. And then from a marketing standpoint, I had really started professionally working in journalism. So getting started in journalism really helped me, I think, to begin to sharpen my writing a lot more, and to learn a very different writing style in journalism. And then I went from journalism to public relations, or actually I went from journalism to marketing, and then from marketing to to public relations writing. So, you know, it was these are all very different types of writing, and so it really helped me. So I'm much farther along than I was when I wrote my first book many moons ago. So I've definitely, you know, become much better, and I want to go back and smack my old self in the back of the head, and do a little bit more emphasis on editing, the editing part. So that's the emphasis right now moving forward, is to really focus on that. Right now I'm writing a 5-book series. I'm about 78,000 words through book 1. I'm figuring it's probably going to take me 85 to 90 to finish it. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm probably going to write book 2 during NaNoWriMo in November. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing right there. So that's a large snapshot. Should have been a small snapshot of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that was all a very good nutshell from everybody. So thank you. I appreciate the I see, very hammering it down. So unlike two of us here, I didn't know what marketing was until like 2012. So I graduated in political science and was doing research stuff and international relations stuff. And not until I became dissatisfied with the whole Washington, D.C. Life and sort of the track I was on, and thought I need to turn this around and do something different, did I think, oh, maybe I can turn my hand to writing novels, because other great love of my life, right? And so when I started writing, it was nights and weekends, and then I thought, oh, I have a book a year later. Let's see what people do with that, right? I was too scared to submit, so I didn't query, and I just started looking into self-publishing stuff and realized, oh, okay, so you have like 3 more jobs than just the writing part. Okay.
Yeah.
And so then I started having to research what marketing is and how it's different from PR, and how, all this other stuff that I had no idea, because I didn't go to business school. So, yeah, so they kind of came hand in hand. I haven't done marketing for anything else. And yeah, so 2013 is when I started my first book. And then since then, it's been like a hopscotch of what new things can I try without overwhelming myself each time I published a book, and then sort of see how it went and then go, okay, well, ditch that, or, you know, try something more on this level. So that's how I've approached the marketing. Lots of groups that I've joined and little courses that I've taken. But that's the only background, just internet research for marketing chops. So that's my background. I wanted to ask more about your approach to, so the big field of marketing here, drilling down to social media strategy, because the way I came up with the sliced and dice, because your girl loves a pun, is that I took a course workshop during Willamette Writers conference last summer, and it was put on by Jenny Comp. She's an editor. She's a project manager / editor. And she had an interesting approach, which I'll just to encapsulate here, was write down all the things that make you, activity-wise, in a pie chart. Like, you know, 50%, 20%, you know, maybe people have a few things, maybe people have a lot of things. And then what you want to share and, you know, what maybe relates to author stuff or not, or just see what you want to share. And I thought this would be fun. It's so the last time I did an AuthorTube panel, it was on artifacts. So it was on little things that authors have like saved from their writing journeys. And this is actually an artifact. So this was my process document where I started with all the things.
Whoa.
And then, like, flow it onto all the platforms to figure out what would match with what. So, yeah.
That looks like physics right there. I mean,
right? It's electrical circuitry, right? No.
Wow.
No.
But,
Margaret
you know,
discovered the secret to youth, found the fountain of youth, and discovered the net. Like, she has single-handedly solved all of life's biggest problems. Wow.
I can't claim this. I can't claim this at all. But that was an accessible approach for me, is like, okay, I do lots of things. What are all the things? Put them down on a pie chart. And then what are all the platforms? And then how do they link together? So that was sort of like bare bones of where I started for, like, you know, iteration number 16 last summer. So I was interested to know how you guys thought about, okay, I have a book. What am I going to do to promote it? Or how am I going to connect with readers? Was it going to the UK and having in-person events? Or like, what are some of the other things you anticipate doing or have tried in little baby steps? So if anyone wants to jump in, I'm going to allow the open floor.
I see some great questions coming in.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, Margaret, did you want to start with social media strategy, or because I think that's where so because I think we started talking about social media strategy, but then the question evolved. Where did you want to start?
Social media strategy approach. Like, how did you approach it? That I just gave you sort of this is too tremendous to contemplate. How do I narrow it down? I think that's where a lot of authors are, is like when they start with this, it's just like, there's too many platforms. Do I have to do all of them? And I have too many things. How do I know what to share with the audience? So how did you sort of narrow that down to make it manageable? Or however you want to put that.
So I think for me, what I recommend authors do, and what I do for myself, is to do what resonates with you. Because if something is a chore, if something is miserable, if something is something that you dread, guess what? You're not going to want to do that thing. Yeah. So, but it has to be done. So what I do for myself, and what I recommend that everyone else do, is find what your jam is. Find what works best for you. So for some people, they don't like pictures. They just want, they don't want to deal with trying to stage a beautiful picture, worrying about light, worrying about angle, worrying about color, consistency, brand, the quilt, the feed. They don't want to think about these things. Instagram is not for them. They want to talk on Twitter. They just want to be witty and clever and cool and, and minute to minute, and have these fun little, are you,
what is the quilt? Is the quilt like,
I wasn't sure what you were doing there, Margaret. I was like, I wasn't sure if you were dancing or raising your hand or raising a finger, or she was like, I was ready to go with it though. I was like, I can. Okay. So a quilt, a great question. So a quilt is, if you go to if I am hanging out on Instagram and I think to myself, I've heard cool things about Margaret Bernard. She lived in England. I lived in England. She loves British. I love British. I'm going to go check her out. I'm going to click over and I'm going to see your latest picture, but then I can go to your quilt where I see all of your 9 latest pictures. Now, the reason this matters is because when I click over, you have to think with every picture that you post, is this picture worthy of Instagram, or is this kind of a blurry, crappy, dull, boring, I can't tell if it's a jar of, hearts or, beets or I don't know, a serial killer or what, or a cute little dog because it's a mess. That picture needs to be artistic. It needs to be pretty. It needs to be worthy of me exercising my finger to click like. But when I click over to your, and then I think to myself, this is cool. What else is Margaret into? I click over to your quote where I see your last 9 pictures. Now, what I'm looking for there is consistency. So are all of your pictures nice? Is this a space I want to be in? Is this a living room I want to enter? Is this a world I want to hang out in? Also, does it look cohesive? Is this one person, or is she talking about space-time continuum in one, and then she's talking about ancient Scottish in the other, and then she's talking about dogs, and then she's talking about cats, and then she throws in a soup. And I don't know what Margaret is about. So I don't know if I want to be in Margaret's world because I don't know if that resonates with me. So that's why quilt versus feed matters. So we're thinking about creating a world that represents us and that we want to be inviting. Just like if you invite people into your house, you're going to clean up a little. You're not going to just like be laying there in your underwear with your Cheez-Its down your face, which is, how I usually am. I'm going to pick the place up first, right? So same thing, you want to create a welcoming environment. So for people like me who love photographs and who love art and who are visual people who love to look at light and color and angle and cute little puppy pictures, Instagram's for me, right? So I concentrate most of my energy in Instagram. Now, for people who aren't, they're going to, who are wordsmiths, go over there, hang out at Twitter. You're going to be witty. You're going to be quippy. You're going to be cool. You're going to be up to the minute. You're going to be hip. You don't care about pictures. You want to communicate in GIFs, in memes. You want to, be wordsmiths. That's you. Exactly. For people whose audience skews too older, Facebook is your jam. That's where that Facebook skews older. For people who want to skew younger, you're talking to millennials, you're writing YA, you need to be on TikTok. You need to be on the talk. So it's about what resonates with you, and it's about where your audience is. So where are you going to be comfortable and who you're trying to reach? If I'm trying to reach baby boomers, I'm not going to be on TikTok because guess who's not on TikTok? Boomers. Guess who's not on Facebook?
That's true.
Millennials. Yep. So find your people and then find what works for you and communicate in a way that feels authentic.
I think it's different for me because I write memoir. So what am I presenting? I'm presenting everything that I am, So yeah, I'm not on Instagram. I don't do that. I'm on Twitter. But I don't like Facebook that much because that's where my people that I know in IRL, as they say, live. And I don't know if I want them to know my other persona, my memoir persona, because when I wrote my first memoir, I had family tell me that didn't happen. That's not true, even though they were like 10 years younger than me and they weren't around when those things happened. So there's a lot of, writing memoir is a little bit different.
I think, my first book was a memoir, but I think that, Elizabeth Gilbert famously said, every memoir is fiction and every fiction is memoir. Yeah. So you're putting yourself on the page in a novel. Like I can pick out for the people I know well, I'm like, oh, there's her thing. Oh, there's that issue. Oh, there's her dad. There's her mom. There's that thing that happened when she was 5. And with memoir, it's not your diary, right? It's a curated version of you. So you are putting yourself out there. Yes, it's your truth, but it's your version of your truth. And you're not showing us the things you don't want to show us, and you're showing us the things you do want to show us, and you're stringing them together in a way that makes narrative sense, right? So it's still a curated persona. So I think Instagram, makes sense for memoirists if, again, you like pictures, which it sounds like you don't, which is totally fine.
I kind of disagree with that in a way because not every memoir is a curated idea of yourself. I think in my memoir, I was totally brutal. I don't know if you read the book Know My Name. I mean,
Chanel
Chanel Miller. I just
yes.
finished that book, and you know, that was her truth. And sometimes truth is brutal. And
no, right. But it's only the sections of the truth that she wants. It isn't like day 1, I was born. Day 2, I ate applesauce. Day 3, I ate oatmeal. Day 4, I ate applesauce. Right. It's only the narrative. It's only the parts that make sense for the book that hold it together. Right.
True.
Like,
but it could be day 1, I ate applesauce and my mother threw it at me or something. You know what I mean? It could.
But only right. But only if the mother threw it at you.
Right.
Writing about her mother.
Exactly. Because you can't write or else you're writing an autobiography.
Well, that would be your diary, even worse. Like
right. It has to be written. I think that memoir has to be written like fiction, but be true.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so if you can find pictures, if you like pictures, which sounds like you don't. But if
I like pictures, I just don't take pictures well. But
right.
yeah,
So
I'm thinking of
to communicate on Instagram. If you did like pictures, if you wanted to show that, you could do, pictures of your house, pictures of this, the cookie that reminded you of the cookie that you first ate that your mother then threw at you, whatever it is, like you're going to be able to communicate in that way that's still powerful.
Yes.
I think that one of the things that Marilyn does best to connect with people is talking and storytelling. As someone from Brooklyn, that generation from Brooklyn, my mom was from Astoria, so it's like there's few similarities there, and so I think YouTube, where she's talking directly at the camera and like feeling like a conversation, is probably like the best outlet, and so she's found the right thing. Doesn't let's see, what can I say? We have almost the same anniversary on BookTube, and she has twice as many subscribers, so obviously she's right.
I had 100 subscribers before I even went on my first, did my first. Yeah, I started with 100 subscribers because I was commenting on other people's channels. And I'm thinking of I'm going to be 70, and I'm thinking of starting a YouTube channel. And they said, do it. And but I don't know how many
anticipation.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Yeah,
what about you, Sandy?
Excellent. Sandy, did you want to give us a little taste of your approach, how you sort of narrowed down this impossible task into what you're going to do for your books?
Yeah, I think, one of the things when I first start writing and I'm thinking about how I'm going to pitch it to an agent or how I'm going to pitch it to a publisher, I'm also at the same time, I'm thinking about how I'm going to market it. Who's going to be the audience for this? Who am I going to sell this to eventually? Because, once your agent, if you have one, or your editor or their marketing team, where are you going to take the ball where they drop it? So I wanted to be thinking about that.
Already.
Yeah. So you want to, so I don't, it's never too early to start thinking about that. I mentioned that I'm about 78,000 words into this book, and I'm already thinking about what's the audience for this? Who am I going to sell this to? And so that's where the marketing starts. So I don't want to wait. I would encourage people, don't wait until after you're done and you've gone through and you've content edited, you've line edited, you've sent it off to your editor that you're paying to edit it, and then think, okay, now how are we going to market this? I mean, that's where you're going to find yourself in trouble. So I would definitely encourage to start thinking as early as possible. And then to piggyback off of what Sarah was saying, in addition to what social platforms you feel comfortable with, also think about where can you be successful? Where do you have the energy? Yeah. So it used to be like with Snapchat, if that's still a thing for some people. With Snapchat, it's like you have to constantly feed it. So do you have the time to constantly feed Snapchat? And so, and the same a little bit with TikTok. Do you have the time to invest in feeding it? Do you have the creative chops to be successful? The same thing with Instagram. It's like I'm a photographer, so I feel I have an edge there, but the staging that some people do with their Instagram is just phenomenal. Now, again, you can do it on a budget. You can go to your Goodwill and you can find little things that you can use. Exactly. There's little things that you can use to help you stage and to be successful with your photos. Study what other people are doing. Find out or just look at it. You don't even have to necessarily talk to them. See what other people are doing that's helping them to be successful. And then how can you incorporate that into your vision to make it come alive on your social channels? But my job, part of my job is being a social media manager. And so I'm always telling people, well, they say, well, we want to start this social media channel for our office. And I'm like, okay. I start asking them a series of questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
I ask them a series of questions. Can you provide content on a regular basis for this? Who's going to provide your content? Can you be multimedia? You can't just do text. Can you have video elements? Can you have photography elements? Mixing your elements up so you're not boring and dry, because you don't want your Facebook to look like Twitter. And then again, you don't want your Twitter to look totally like Twitter too. You want to have photography in your Twitter. You want to have video in your Twitter as well. So those are things that you need to think about, but it starts really at the beginning. Before you've done writing your book, you should already be thinking about how you're going to market it.
Okay, Sandy's a man after my own heart. Like, we're totally vibing here.
Nice.
Yeah, Barrett's nodding yes in the corner.
Yeah. Excellent.
Feeling those vibes.
Yeah. All right. So I follow you guys on your various channels and or talks on YouTube or Facebook. And so I have a flavor of what you put out there. But when I'm thinking back to, the things that I put on here, they're a bit dated. They're like a year and a half old now, but I had, let's see, costumes, tea, cat memes, Scotland and travel. That's a little hard these days, but these are the sort of things I put on my pie chart that are part of me that I'm sharing on different platforms. So what are some of the things that that you guys put out that you wanted to share with people in case they have the same thing in common?
I put a lot of mental health stuff out because I suffered from an anxiety disorder since I was very young, and I want to help other people. So my main goal for joining YouTube actually wasn't marketing. It was to, here I am, 70-year-old woman. I want to share my life, what I've learned, what I've went through in my various bad choices or good choices. And I went here, I went there, I did this, I did that. And maybe I can help somebody. And if they want to read my book, fine. But I can't say that I really was going in with a marketing purpose, even though I have about 80,000 words on my second memoir. So I don't really know. I think that people that are attracted to personal stories, emotional stories, would probably be the people that want to read my book. So I'm not really sure if I'm reaching the right people with the social media that I'm in, but hopefully hit and miss will work for me. So yeah, I don't have a really big plan, but hopefully
let me try a different angle. So when I'm wondering like what we have in common, for example, since I know your guys' feeds pretty well, who has an animal in their feeds? I think Sandy's the odd man out. Who has food or drink of some kind in their feeds? I know I went off the shelf on this one. So Sarah's got that. What about outdoor locations?
I just did my first.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's right. From the beach. That was really good. Let's see. Sky cloud pictures. That was one of my ones I started out with.
Yeah.
No?
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a commonality that I think people like. So
we have beautiful clouds in Hawaii. So
right.
Sunsets.
And before we get to the unique aspects that you want to share, why don't we pop up to one of Barrett's questions? Best advice for newbie authors regarding marketing. I think my best advice is trying to narrow down and experiment. And I've got some more specific things, but I thought I'd put that up there to see if someone wanted to comment on that one specifically.
I think Margaret's right. I think, again, it's just finding what you're most comfortable with. For Marilyn, it sounds like she's more comfortable in Twitter. Margaret may be more comfortable in Twitter. I love Instagram because I love photography. I think if I could be, I would almost be a photographer. Like I love taking pictures and I love looking at pictures and I love the art of it and the visual, expression of that. And I appreciating other people's pictures. So Instagram's definitely my jam. And also with Twitter, I'm always like, I can never think of anything cool enough to say. Like, I'm like, and then I end up rewriting it so many times because trying to be effortless, and it's not effortless because it's so hard to be clever and cool, or attempt to be. I'm not even claiming that I am. So I think it's about finding what is right for you and finding where your audience is. What Sandy was saying, thinking down the line, not waiting till that book comes out, thinking down the line about, anticipating where will those people be, and then pulling those themes out of your books. So, everybody loves animals, to Margaret's point. So there's, a lot of people who are team cat, Karen Slaughter, so many hashtag Catter Day, there's all the team cat people. And then there's the people like me who are team dog. And I have my little dog and, and I am putting little Pelu to work. I'm like, Pelu, everyone in this house works. Now pose with that book, and do like little, little talking dog videos or whatever. So it's about, that's only part of my brand in terms of letting people get to know me as a human, as a full faceted person. I'm not writing, books about dogs. That's just something fun to connect with people on. Same thing with the food. I'm not writing a cookbook. Like I don't have a cookbook to sell, but people love food. I'm an Italian woman. I'm compelled to feed you. So I'm going to be wanting to talk about food. I'm going to want to, be nourishing you in that way on the screen and at the table. So I think it's about, again, to Sandy's point, so strategically, so brilliantly looking down the line and thinking, where are my people and what are the themes from my books that I can pull out to connect with them. So if you're, writing, identifying those people, identifying those themes, then you can start to talk to them and then connect with those people in that way, through hashtags, through photos, through, teasing out all of the ways that those things manifest themselves.
Yeah, I think also one other thing with marketing too is, look at your comps. What other books are comparable to yours, and then look at, the audiences for those, and maybe you can siphon off some of their audience, or you can find ways that they appeal their book to their audience. And so there may be some opportunities there for you to engage their audiences by, and it also helps you to think through your book, because I think about comps really from the beginning too. So when I'm thinking about, what is this book going to be about? And I'm thinking about outlining it. I'm thinking about marketing it, but I'm also looking at the comps, because the comps are going to help me with a lot of what I'm trying to do. So look at the comps when you start thinking about your marketing, because that's going to help you. Look at how their back cover, the description, how they describe their book. Those are things that all can be very helpful for you in marketing.
I think you have to be yourself. I think being authentic, I think that's very important. And my degree was in intercultural communications. I'm half Puerto Rican, half Jewish, and that's a big part of my identity. So I put that out on YouTube a lot, talking about being Latina, being Jewish, and how, those two cultures affected me as a writer, and how it affects my writing. So I kind of, I read books by diverse authors, and I consider myself a diverse author in many ways, not only being, Jewish and Puerto Rican, but being older, using that, and being disabled. So, I click all those boxes, fortunately and unfortunately, in disabled part. So, so those are my people, the Spoonies on Twitter and YouTube, and people that write for marginalized communities, and that's where I find a lot of, where I find my
resonance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
good deal.
That's an important point though about diversity though, because there's so many aspects of diversity that sometimes we don't necessarily think about. So that's great perspective there from Marilyn. So I definitely appreciate that. Diversity is much more broader than just race, for example. Because I think most times when people hear the word diversity, it could be actually a triggering word for a lot of people, unfortunately. But I think there's a lot more to it. So it's great to hear those perspectives.
Yeah, and actually, my very dear friend Gian Doherty, who is a self-described Afro-Caribbean Irish American princess. Her dad's from Worcester, Massachusetts, and her mom's from the DR. She's African from the DR, but moved to the DR. And she is a, she has two businesses. She's a Black woman owned skincare company, award-winning skincare company. And she's the founder of Well Summit, which is the country's first wellness conference of its kind and largest. And she always said to me, I want everyone to see themselves on my stage. I want everyone to see themselves on my stage. And because she is biracial, she's like, I want Black women to see themselves on the stage, white women, older women, younger women, larger women, thicker women, thinner women, like everyone, differently abled, disabled, everyone deserves to see themselves on the page. And being part of Well Summit and speaking there for 5 years, it was incredibly energizing and empowering. And I have taken that with me, and it really did change my thoughts about diversity, because prior to that, I was thinking it was more of a racial issue, and it's so not. It's about age, it's about size, it's about ability, it is about life experience, ethnicity, everything, language, culture. And I really, as I try to cultivate my author lineup, I keep that with me. Everyone deserves to see themselves on the page, on the stage, on the screen, on the TV, everywhere. And I really try to cultivate a very diverse lineup with all of those factors in mind, because it's so important and it's so true. And when people see that, then it's empowering to them, and it makes them, they feel like they can do that. And we all deserve that. So amen.
That's refreshing to hear though, because I know, a lot of times in BookTube and AuthorTube, there, many discussions about diversity and the different types of diversity and opening doors and being inclusive, with panels and with discussions. And so that's great to hear. It's definitely very encouraging to hear that.
Yeah. And I have to give a lot of credit to Gian for that. And, I will say, as I've segued into the mystery world, I was shocked. I moved to Boston from Philly, and in Philly, I was usually the only white girl on the bus. And then I moved to Boston, and I was like, oh my God, this is the whitest place I've ever lived. And now I literally was like, this is weird and creepy. And now in the mystery world, I'm having that same sensation where I'm like, this is the whitest space I've ever been in. It's shockingly white. I mean, it is brain meltingly white. When you Google mystery writers, it does not look like the world outside my door if you live in an urban area, which I do. And so it's been really interesting, because I've had to really not just be mindful about it, but actively work to recruit people, because there's so few of them. And I know, this is really, we're talking about this now more than ever, and we should be, because of the Black Lives Matter movement, which is, coming to a forefront. I've been doing this work for a long time. Like I was, in 2014, I'm proud to be the only white person who was invited to speak at the YBW, which is the Young Black Women's Conference. And they invited me, and I was like, do they know I'm white? Am I allowed to be here? But I was incredibly honored, and to be invited. And it was because, I'm known for creating welcoming spaces in my yoga classes and whatever. And so I try to do that work, but my God, it's crazy in the mystery world how not diverse it is.
I have a funny story about, I was the only white presenting girl in my projects. I say white presenting because my father was born in Puerto Rico, and my great-grandmother was 100% African, but you couldn't tell that because I was blonde and hazel-eyed. But I went to the UK. I read, one of my stories was about a porter from our project, and I was invited to read. And when I walked in, everyone was African, British African people. And I was like, okay. And they're like, they have their arms crossed and they go, what is this white girl going to tell us, And I'm talking about the porter from my project and how he was so important to my life. He was an African American. And when I would see him, he would come up and he would say, hi, baby. And I would go, hi, Thompson, because everybody called him Thompson. And I talked about him and how important he was, like almost like a surrogate father. And at the end, I said, if I can see him today, I would say, and I wish I would have known your name was Mr. Thompson. And all the African, British people, I mean, they really understood that. And they were like, coming up to me and, these were not rich people. I mean, I was at a community center and they were buying my books and hugging me. And I was saying, wow, I felt really, really seen. I felt seen and I felt that, they understood. So that was a great experience of my marketing, which I didn't really know was my marketing, but yeah. So I try to be in my book, in all my, writing, I'm diverse. I'm having a hard time, or I had a hard time reckoning myself. Am I Puerto Rican? Because, am I, Jewish? Am I, what crowd do I go out with, And I think that affected my life in great ways, having that, in a good way and a bad way, trying to fit into one of those, crowds. So,
Right.
yeah. So that's more of my marketing.
I love that. That's such a strong. Oh, I think my internet is laggy. Sorry, everybody, if I'm over talking.
No, we can hear you.
I was going to say that's a very strong story of connection, and that is definitely something I feel like that's unique to you, because you have those different identities, and when you focus in on one, or when you focus in on the plurality and what issues that created, that's when you connect with people, because others that have those issues, they will be very strong, because I don't think they're often talked about. So what are some unique aspects that you shared? So I'm going to lead with this one. I have costumes at the top of my list, and I will just say, historical fiction are not the most, prolific writers on social media, right? You see a few that have big names, but like that they're not the first thing that you think of when you think of writers on social media. So being a historical fiction writer means that there are very few sort of role models to look at. And so when I was looking at them, and I thought, well, historical costuming, can't we marry these? Because I love watching historical costuming videos, right? And there was no overlap. There were no historical fiction authors that were also in costume doing stuff. And when I was doing in-person events before the apocalypse, I was the person who would go to events in costume and sing, or, talk about a folk song or something. And so that was part of the brand that I shared on Instagram and sometimes on Facebook. And I think that's pretty unique, because I don't see many other people doing that. So if you know people that have, definitely shout them out in the comments. But Marilyn has just talked about one of the things that she connected with her audience in London on. You guys have other examples of something that was like really specific to you, that you were like, I found my niche. Like, this is so specific, unique, and like this worked, and I connected with a particular audience.
I mean, as a yoga teacher, and people love yoga, that definitely has been something really connecting, I would say. It's also been challenging because the yoga space is super crowded, mostly with 20-year-old, super skinny white girls in spandex doing arm balances and inversions and crazy stuff that I could never do. So what I tried to do is use yoga as a tool for rest, for restoring, gentle, therapeutic, as a tool for writing, as a tool for creativity, and to sort of use it that way as a tool for mental health. I've struggled with anxiety my whole life as well. And so, using it, talking about it in that different way allowed me to reach people a little differently, and also not have to try to compete with, the
Right.
Lululemon yoga girls.
Right. Lululemon. Oh my gosh, I haven't thought about them for a long time.
The lemons. Yeah.
Yes. Jeremy's I want to hear more about Jeremy's cosplay here.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see those costumes, Jeremy. We're gonna need to see the costumes. The proof is in the costumes.
Yes, we had some spicy chat earlier. We had some people talking about social media. I just wanted to catch up a little bit. Pay saying, no clue how people keep up with social media. I mainly use one, just use the others once in a while. That's pretty manageable. That sounds like a good strategy. Barrett checked out. Yes, to spend quality time. And then let's see.
I think Barrett had some other questions too back there.
Yes. Okay, let me scroll back up.
And I think the last person who commented, I think the person's name was Attention, was saying that I think that's totally fine. I think it is good to have your handle, your name on those other channels that you're not spending that much time on, so that people can tag you, because there's nothing more annoying for me or for anyone else, any bookstagrammers, any book talkers, anybody, you go to tag the person and their name ain't there. And then you're trying to promote their book. You're trying to shout out their great work. You're trying to be like, here's my gift to you, which I'm giving you for free. And it just is at, blank. And that's tough. So I think even though you don't want to be spending the time there, Pi, which I totally understand, at least get your name, your handle, so that people can tag you, so that when you do check in once a week or whatever it is, you can retweet it, repost it, regram it, or at least say thank you.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing, because we talk about that a lot in terms of social media. Like you might see a new platform that emerges and you're like, okay, where did this thing come from? And so then it emerges and you're like, well, I don't know if I have the energy to devote to that. And I'm like, that might be true. But you go ahead and you grab your handle, and then it's always there. So if it really blows, Instagram is a good example. When Instagram first started, I'm not sure how many people thought Instagram was really going to take off, and then all of a sudden it just took off exponentially. And then, so for our university, I grabbed the handle, and it was there. And then once it started to take off, we were ready. And the same thing with Snapchat. And then, Snapchat kind of maybe went in a different direction. But, it's really good to get that. And then, you take on and you put your energy in what you can handle. But you grab it, and then if things change, Foursquare was big at one time. Now it's gone. Nobody knows what Foursquare is anymore. So you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Sandy speaking truth over there. Yeah. Exactly. And the other thing too is make sure your handle is your name. So I think the tendency is to be, Yoga Girl 54, or his historical fiction baby, or whatever. No, that is not going to be it. You want it to be your name, and then you can put the description in, for the obvious reason that if you change your genre, you won't have to, change your handle. And also, so it frees you to write different things. And also, because ain't nobody got time to be sorting through the other 53 historical fiction babies before they get to historical fiction 74.
True.
And also, and one other thing too is you want to make sure you grab your name, because there are squatters that will take your name, and then if you blow up and you get to be really big and you want your name later, they got it and they're like, well, let's see, I don't know, your net worth is, I don't know, $300,000. Well, why don't you break me off like, $50,000 for your name? So if you see it, just grab it.
You know where they learned that is with URLs. They've just taken the thing about URLs and brought it to all the different social media platforms, which is
I wish I had known that, because I'm Maya Hawaii on Twitter. So I don't know if I should change it.
There's people that grab bunches of them, like websites. You just grab bunches of them. They just sit on them, and you just sit on them for about $3 a year. You just sit on them, and then somebody wants to buy it, for $10,000 because all of a sudden they've blown up. Then it's cheaper to get it right from the start.
Absolutely.
I will say, in case anyone is laboring under the mystery of why I'm Taste Life Twice on Twitter, it's because that's my publishing company. So it is a name that's staying with me for all of my books, but it does make it harder to find. I don't know. It was a long time ago. It was 2011.
That's fair.
I was live tweeting from the Atlantic talks, and that's why I went on Twitter. And so that is like why I got a name at all. So
I think the other thing to Barrett's question about what most authors get wrong, another common mistake I see is that authors are talking to other authors and not to the readers. Huge mistake. Like, are authors also readers? Yes. Do I buy books? Yes. But am I your primary audience? Not so much. So I think the mistake is it's hashtag, hashtag M writing or hashtag, author day or whatever. It's like, who do you think searching that? Other authors. You need to be thinking about reaching readers. Who's going to buy your book? Who's going to read that book? And I think that's, another huge mistake I see is, they're talking in a way that's, they're venting author problems, or they're venting publishing problems, or they're venting advanced problems or self-publishing or whatever. And of course those problems, are fine to talk about, but your reader doesn't know what you're talking about and doesn't care. So we have to, again, be thinking of them. And it comes from a spirit of service. So if you're, as Sandy said, identifying that audience way down the line and then starting to think about serving them Marilyn Maya's point, you're serving authentically from the heart. That's where that sweet spot is, I think.
I still don't really know who my readers are. I'll be very honest here. Because, okay, when we say who are readers, mostly women. You know? I mean, that's just the fact, mostly women. And that's about all people who are interested in stories. So, I mean, I really, that could be anybody. So I really haven't got to that niche yet of, it's simpler about mysteries. People are mystery readers. I'm one of them, so I know. So, but for memoir, it's a little different. It's a little difficult.
Well, we know that most readers across the board are women. We know that most memoir readers are mostly women. And we know that it's women who have the time to read. So probably not so much women with young kids as much, although some do. God bless them. And then we know it's women with disposable income, right? So because you have to be able to afford books. When I was growing up, we couldn't afford books. I went to the library. So
me too.
Exactly. So you're not talking to those people as much. You're talking to the people who can buy books. And so it's identifying the themes in your book, people who are interested in New York, who are interested in Brooklyn, who are interested in Survivor, who are interested in disability, who are interested in those things, probably skewing toward an older audience. Then it's tailoring to them. So you're not going to be talking about, TikTok or Da Bunny. You're going to be talking about the Rolling Stones and, Bob Dylan. So it's about
Janis Joplin.
Exactly. And then getting in there.
Yeah.
Going back to Barrett's question, though, I think one mistake with marketing is, I think sometimes when we write something, we assume that everybody's just going to get it, and that we don't have to sell what we've created. And I think that's the disconnect between us, the authors, and our audiences. We just think it's out there. Hey, man, I got a great story. It's going to just sell, man, because it's just great. It's going to sell. And we forget that we have to make that connection. And we have to learn how to sell a little bit more, as opposed to just thinking, yep, I created a great work. And it probably is, but you still have to be able to sell it.
Yep.
Amen. And I think the other thing too is that idea of haven't I done enough, right? Which is a different form of entitlement, right? It's like, I have written this, and of course it should be enough in the world where you have a money tree outside and a pony waiting to take you there. But the truth is it's not. And then we have to get ready for that next marathon of, we've written the book. Now we have to take off the writer helmet, take off the editor helmet, and transition, eat our Wheaties for the day and get ready to market the crap out of that book. And it's not going to sell itself, no matter how much we believe in it, no matter how much we love it, and no matter how much we believe that the story is worthy, which it is, it still ain't going to sell itself. So we have to be out
even if you're traditionally published. That's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's you have to do your own work now. It's not like it was 50 years ago when they really did that. I mean, they just did the book and that was it, but you really have to be part of the marketing. That's so important.
So
know?
I have a tangent I really want to go on, but I know we're almost finished with our time here and I don't want to keep you guys too late. So let me just push in the question about the other half of the equation, which is what you don't share. So obviously we don't want to go into detail here about we don't share, but it's important to maybe explain that we have boundaries with the brand, right? So we could be all about service, we could be all about thinking through what our audience wants, but how do you maintain the boundaries or maintain the mental health when you're trying to do all the things? There's time management questions in this involved in this calculation, but there's also like just things that you don't feel comfortable sharing. So I don't want to like put anyone on the spot, but I'm just like, I have my list. This is my list.
Whoa.
Long.
I mean, holy overachieving. Wow.
No. This is just the whole talk. There's only 4 little things. So like
Margaret unrolled the list and it was Santa's list. It was like
a lot of YouTubers do behind the scenes things about their monetization goals and like how they're checking out things and behind the scenes stuff. And I don't really share number goals because that's one of those things I'll share. I want to be querying at this time, and I didn't make that this year. So I want to be doing this and this and this because part of that is accountability. But I don't want to share, I want to hit this many subscribers or I want to make this much money because that feels like that's constantly changing. I don't want to share those disappointments. Like, that's not something I want to share. So as an example. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's some people out there who are just, sort of like sharing their dirty underwear in a way that like I do not enjoy following and I would not enjoy sharing.
Right.
And so, there's just certain things that, and I think it's about finding, what's comfortable. I'm a shy person. I'm an introverted person. I'm most happy with my nose in a book, snuggle with my little puppy at home. The pandemic has been a huge relief because I'm not missing out on anything. I get to stay home and not have FOMO. It's the best. But I think so, I don't want to talk about, I never talk about my marriage. I never talk about my husband. I don't talk about, my family stuff because they didn't, my sisters, they didn't ask to be out there. They don't want to be out there. And it's not, I just want to respect their privacy. Also, that's not a brand for me. I'm not trying to write a marriage book. I'm not trying to write a relationship book. I don't talk about kids. Everyone else is bonding about kids. I don't have kids. I can't have that conversation. I'm not interested in having that conversation. So it's, it's about identifying again, I think what is comfortable for me and what's on brand for me, and then leaning into that and backing off what isn't.
Totally. And one of the things I was going to mention is that like there's a whole part of like environmental issues and climate issues and sustainability issues that will peek every once in a while into my BookTube videos because I'll talk about why I'm doing my own TBR or why I'm decluttering or why I'm spending time with my family and doing XYZ. But it's not like a whole focus. And one of the examples is actually Sarah's Instagram stories. So in that exercise where I had all the pie charts and I had all the platforms, Instagram is a different platform really from Instagram stories. It's a different vibe. Yeah. And so when I see Sarah's stories, those are the ones where she's sharing all the social justice causes and like the immediate of the moment in the news things. And that fits because that's what people are looking for in the moment. And so that's the sort of thing that you have to really strategize or narrow down or just think what feels right for me. Do I share this here or not at all? So.
And thank you for bringing that up. And Margaret, I see the Witty Writers Show with author Beth Warsdell is commenting on that as well. She's saying, too many people share negative political and religious posts too, which is a major no-no. It's always best to keep neutral and positive. So Beth, here's the thing. Up until 2016, I would have said yes. Right? Because I could sleep soundly at night knowing there was an adult in the White House and we weren't going to die the next day. Then 2016 happened. And all of a sudden I remembered that in the words of Elie Wiesel, silence only benefits the oppressor. So my silence as a white woman is complicity. So if I stay silent, I'm saying this is okay with me. And that's actually not okay because as a white woman, it's my responsibility to say, this is wrong. This is this is completely unacceptable, and I am committing myself publicly to dismantling systemic racism, and I'm committing publicly to Black Lives Matter, and I'm committing to diversity, something I've worked quietly doing for years, but all of a sudden I had to speak out on it now. And so I had to hurl myself very uncomfortably into that world of speaking out, because we had reached such a breaking point, that again, if I wasn't saying something, I was part of the problem. She's saying anything negative will create negative feedback. I don't know if I agree with that. Will it create some negative feedback? Yes. Some people are going to be out there trolling. You could say, there was something I tweeted out yesterday. You could say, I like lettuce, and everyone could be like, what about cabbage, you fascist?
I saw that.
Okay, there's going to be people who nitpick everything, but there are going to be people whose minds are changed. And if you want to see proof of that, follow Emily Giffen. She has been out there. She is in Atlanta. She's in an extremely red state, an extremely red area in Buckhead. And she has been beating that drum for equality, and people will say to her, I have been a stalwart Republican, or I was a Trump supporter, and you changed my mind, and it took 1,000 posts, but change is possible. And so again, yes, we're out here to sell books. Yes, we're out here to build brands. But at the end of the day, I have to be able to sleep at night knowing that I didn't sell my soul.
Right.
So it's finding that balance too.
I'm an introvert, believe it or not.
We all are.
We
Sandra,
are.
are you an introvert too?
I consider myself an extroverted introvert.
Yeah, I was going to say
Ambivert. Ambivert, maybe.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm an introvert, but I was, I used to sing on stage, and I used to act and dance. And so I have that persona of being very bubbly, or, when I'm on YouTube, people say, I love your bubbly personality. But, it takes like a long time for me to get over that, 15 minutes of being bubbly. And it's also an authentic part of me. I'm not being inauthentic by being bubbly, but or singing or dancing on YouTube or my.
Okay, Marilyn, we're going to need to hear you sing now.
You have to. I don't sing anymore. I did sing, right, Margaret?
Yes, she has sung on her video.
We're waiting.
Yeah.
Margaret, can the outro please be Marilyn singing?
Yeah.
I don't have that. She'd have to send that to me.
Yeah.
No, I mean right now. Can she sing us off stage when we end?
Oh, I don't know about that, but yeah, I had to practice for a little while before. I used to sing opera. I was studying to do opera. I mean, that was back in. Yeah, but
this is so cool.
Don't do it a long time. Your voice goes. But
okay.
I do have
Mute yourself and warm up your pipes. We'll keep talking, and then come back and sing us off stage.
There is a video. There is a video. My response to Sean the Book Maniac, where I do belt a little bit. So yeah, it's over there. But no, I can't do it. I lost my voice a long time ago. I have to do a lot of practice for that. But what I'm trying to say is that you can have different parts of yourself: your political self, your mental health self, your extroverted self, and still be an introvert. So yeah,
right.
Being authentic is so important. Being you. And
All
that's
right.
what I try to do. That's what I try to do.
Cool. I'm trying to think of what's a good outro song. Maybe we should all sing it together. What's a good outro song?
Farewell, Wiedersehen, good night from Sound of Music.
Sound of Music. I like it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, we're a few minutes over. I'll just ask if there are any final questions from the audience. I know we have fellow authors on AuthorTube/BookTube and the audience. Thank you guys for coming. And I know they've got books out. I'm like, I don't know if Jeremy's still here, but he has a new story in an anthology coming out that's very exciting. And so it's just a lovely community. So I'm glad to see people here and interacting and having fun in the chat. And if anyone wants to give us an outro song, we can do that as well. You guys up for it?
I don't know about an outro song, but I'm definitely. It was great to get this group together and to to meet some new author tubers, booktubers. It's just really great. So I'm just happy to have been invited, and just looking forward to further connecting with my fellow panelists, and
Yes.
and getting an opportunity to go and look through the chat and to see the other people that have been in the chat and representing in the chat, so I can make some connections there as well.
And I want to thank Margaret. We're having our 1-year anniversary together, and she's done a wonderful job today. So, and I'm about to read her first book, so I'm excited about that.
Which is a mystery. Yeah. Oh, okay. Right. That'll. It's on the slow boat. It's on the slow boat to China.
That's
Stopping by
okay.
Hawaii. Yeah.
That's okay. And I'd like to read your book too, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Margaret. And Margaret, thanks again for putting this together. And I did just want to say to Beth, who was saying, you know, she's about, you know, how do you find that balance of posting politically and whatever. And for some people, it's never going to be comfortable. Yeah. And that's, you know, okay, you can work quietly behind, you know, behind the lines, you know, on the off stage or whatever. But I did want to say, you know, I think it is too easy for us all to stay silent. And I do feel the burden and the responsibility because of my white privilege to be that voice of change. And I encourage, you know,
I
other
do a lot of
white
retweeting,
people to step forward and to bring this balance. And it is uncomfortable and it is hard. And it was very uncomfortable and hard for me. But again, I think that's our work. So.
Oh, bravo.
You know, I will say this, Beth kind of beat me to that, because I was actually going to bring that up, but I wasn't quite sure how to frame it. And then Sarah was kind of where I was, because at first it was like conventional wisdom was like, okay, you know, dial it down, because you want to make sure you keep a broad audience, and 50% are Republican, 50% are Democrat or conservative, liberal, however you want to say it. And so you don't want to alienate people. But then you look at the silent majority's silence sometimes makes the vocal minority feel more empowered, because they're screaming and everybody else is just kind of staying quiet. And so I'm not saying you have to scream. I mean, everybody's got to do what they got to do that works for them. But I probably used to be more political. I'm sure people who go through my Twitter, they'll probably know what my politics are, and it is what it is. But yeah, I think everybody's got to make that decision for themselves, and you know, don't shy away from what your voice is. Be respectful. I think the one thing you don't want to do is attack maybe non-political people. You know, I think especially there was the tennis player Naomi Osaka. She was going through some stuff, and there was an author that made a comment about her, and then he ended up deleting it. But so those are things you want to, especially when you're dealing with a mental health issue, those are things you want to shy away from. But if you have a political opinion, I mean, I don't really have a problem with that. I just, you know, you got to know your audience, and you got to know yourself, and you got to make a good decision for yourself.
Right. Absolutely.
So true. So true.
And there we have it. We have our tagline for the night, right? You got to be true to yourself and make those decisions. And I hate making decisions, but if I can do it, you can do it.
Yay, same.
Thank you, everybody. I'll just say everyone's channel is in the chat, and we have another AuthorTube panel coming up September 12th. It's going to be on book events and what we would love as a dream book event. So check that out when you get a chance. And feel free to leave comments on this so we can answer them later. If I see comments for any of these jokers later, I'll funnel them over so that we can keep in touch. So thanks, everybody.
Nice meeting all of you.
Beth, I see your comments.
Nice meeting everybody.
I hear you.
Aloha.
Have a great night, everybody.